What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about Rezolve AI. I want to go over some of the data points, break it down on what just came out from the company itself, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So Rezolve is down 8.02%, 290 for the low, 320 for the high, but fairly low volume, so 11.9 million shares being traded, 16.5 is the average. Of that, roughly 12 million shares, most of it is coming from algorithmic trading, because even looking right here, you see one transaction occurring on the secondary market. It is a sell for 322,000, and then dark pool is very quiet. So most of the volume being done today is linked to algorithmic trading. And it's not just Rezolve that's selling off. On a side note, it is everything and their dog. Even looking at a lot of the broader indexes, it is kind of the worst type of sell-off as well, because it's a slow bleed. So at the time doing this video, NASDAQ down 2.24, S&P down 1.6, and Dow down 1.62. So in general, absolutely brutal day. And what is causing all this is because of the whole shutdown coming to a final end. We are now waiting for the next big catalyst. And so the next big catalyst is rate cuts. But because of how Powell has really been, he's only looking at labor data. That was going to be pretty much the only reason why we get any cut in the foreseeable future. But because of the length of the shutdown, then technically we are not going to be getting any key labor data in November. So that is completely messed up like crazy. So we are going to be concluding this whole month of November with no labor data, and we're going to be speculating like crazy. Powell does not like to speculate. He likes to look at true data and make a decision based on that. That's in his opinion or whatever. So ultimately, at the time of doing this video, now there is a 51.9% likelihood of a 25 basis point cut. So that has gone down from 95.5 1 month ago. So in general, the market is selling off and most likely pricing out that chance of a 25 basis point cut. So it is rather unfortunate. Rezolve did put out news this morning, and that was this right here. So some people might say that this is like amazing news, but it all comes down to trust. I know I've mentioned that in the past with Rezolve, but goes over the Chief Revenue Officer, 𝗪𝗓𝗓, if I'm saying that right, does believe that 500 ARR is now on the table by the end of 2026. So kind of raising their guidance. I don't know if this is them officially raising their guidance or if that's just them assuming it can happen. So there's that. And in general, just kind of a good summarization of everything that has happened. So Elizabeth was, in my opinion, a pretty good catalyst. That's going to be a good entry for the States. But still, at the end of the day, this PR, other than saying that we're now going to have 500 million ARR by the end of 2026, there's not really any good information from here. Of course, at the very beginning, it just says executives from Apple, Google, Microsoft, SAP, Tata Digital are kind of working for Rezolve. So I don't know if Rezolve, by them saying that, they expect people to be impressed, because Rezolve, in all honesty, they're not listening to investors, right? Even if you pop over to their social media, there was this that was posted on November the 12th, but there's absolutely nothing truly being said from the company. And I've commented a couple on their posts just saying, hey, like, you need to do this, you need to do that. They don't really give two craps at all. So I think in general, Rezolve just has their head down. They're doing what they think is best marketing wise, and clearly it's not really working out too well. So in my opinion, today's news about them, maybe, I don't know if, again, this is considered official raising their guidance for 2026 or if they're just unofficially saying it, but the market doesn't believe it either way, because technically for them to, any company to raise their guidance, you would see a bump up in the stock price. That isn't happening whatsoever. So in general, it's kind of more fluff news. Aside from all of that though, shorts are taking advantage today. and they're returning 2.07 million shares. So I do find it rather comical sometimes, because I see on social media, every time a sell-off does occur, you always have people blaming shorts. As much as in some cases, yes, shorts are a big deal, but right now, shorts are returning about 2.07 million shares. So given the fact that there's about 11 million shares being traded, they are making up for a good chunk of the volume, and they are returning. So it does really show how powerful algorithmic trading is. But cost to borrow average 9.9%. That's an annual rate, not a daily rate. And then 6.17% of the free float is being shorted, works to be 9.6 million shares. So I'm very, very disappointed in Rezolve's price action. And from a technical standpoint, as you can even saw on my thumbnail, like, this is a death sentence, because any momentum stock breaking below primarily the 50-day moving average, but the 200-day moving average, that's kind of lights out. So in general, I get it, the market does suck, but a lot of this sell-off that has occurred since the peak of on October the 3rd, Rezolve's done that to themselves, whether that be just artificially pumping it up and many other things. They haven't really done any benefits to shareholders. So it right now below that 200-day moving average is very, very bad. You do need 2 consecutive days to really signal a trend. So tomorrow is going to be a very important day for Rezolve to ideally get above that. But still, given the circumstances, you can even see from the market position, there's no willing buyers whatsoever. So it is a kind of tough scenario, and I always like to be optimistic, right? So I'm not here to bring you down, I'm not here to hype you up, I just read the data, and unfortunately it doesn't really show much optimism for Rezolve right now. There hasn't been that much in like articles really talking about Rezolve, no new analyst ratings, so still nothing really good for that. The only positive right now is the fact that it is very, very oversold, and that's from the stochastic RSI. So if they do put out a good piece of news, you could see a nice push higher, but it's really hard and difficult to kind of distinguish what the market is really looking for with Rezolve. And as I've mentioned, I think technically Dan can just do a introductory video and just say, hey, you know what, this is our product, this is what we do. A lot of people have even commented in a lot of my videos and said, hey, you know what, I will buy Rezolve if they kind of demonstrate their product, which honestly is a fair kind of that's exactly what we want, right? We want to find out how the product works, how can this actually be beneficial. I think there's just way too much gray going on, and clearly there is trust issues, because even them kind of raising their guidance for 2026, market doesn't seem to give 2 craps whatsoever. But nonetheless, looking at the options, 284,000 in calls, 179,000 in put. So dollar value, nobody's really looking at Rezolve. 45% of all the options being done are bearish in nature. Only 1 transaction on the secondary market for 332, and it is a sell, as I've brought up already. But right now with that $3, it is currently below this S2, so that 313 did not hold. So that ideally, best case scenario, is going to be where Rezolve fights back and gets and closes above tomorrow, so Friday. If not, like I said, from a technical standpoint, I think that's kind of lights out. So potentially you could be seeing that 179 on the table. So let me know your thoughts on Rezolve. Are you buying? Are you selling? What's your general thoughts on Rezolve? And for those of you that kind of tuned in or even have joined my Patreon when Rezolve was roughly around $1, and I did double down when it was at $2.40, I think it was, I said, hey, you know what? This is a screaming buying opportunity. You need to buy now. And I did eventually have a target of about $7. So it hit that perfectly. But unfortunately, just given the circumstances, momentum has just completely diminished. So I did do a post on my Patreon for Rezolve. So if you're kind of curious, definitely pop over there and take a look. I go over where I realistically see things going for the company and whatever else. But as far as everything that's happening, there's just a lot of blood in the market. So let me know your thoughts on Rezolve. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. And then one final thing, pop over to my Patreon. If you're looking for some solid buy signals on stocks, options, crypto, put out daily day trades, numerous swing trades, worthwhile to pop over there and check that out. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.